his horse is leaning against the building with its legs crossed and its head down at the ground like the horse is drunk.
6 Oscar nominations, sure. But number 10 in the greatest of all time, you're out of your mind.
Well, now, friends, just lend an ear, for you're now about to hear the ballad of Cat Ballou. It's a song that's newly made.
Hi, welcome to The Real Generation Gap. I'm Rudy Ruiz.
I'm Fred Stilly.
And today we're going to be talking about the 1965 Western comedy Cat Ballou. Now, Cat Ballou stars Lee Marvin and Jane Fonda. Jane Fonda playing a school teacher who hires a gunman to protect her father from Strawn, an outlaw hitman with a missing nose. Lee Marvin plays 2 characters in this movie, Strawn the killer and the gunman that Jane Fonda...
Kid Shalene,
the gunman that Jane Fonda hires to protect her father, who turns out to be a complete drunk. This movie was nominated for 6 Academy Awards and got 1 win for Lee Marvin as the best actor of that year.
What an out-of-character it was for him.
Yes.
You know, I'm used to seeing him in war movies, and he's the grizzled sergeant. You know, he's the guy, the toughest guy in the regiment or something like that. And in this, like you said, he plays both gunmen. He's the hired killer, and he's the guy defending from the hired killer. And he's this really wacky drunk. And I guess the most iconoclastic scene in the movie is he's like an on his feet stumbling down drunk.
Right.
Like he can operate that way, you know? But near the end of the movie, he falls off the wagon and he gets drunk again. You know, he rehabilitates himself for the gunfight. And then as they're trying to make their getaway, he's supposed to be the distraction. And his horse is leaning against the building with its legs crossed and its head down at the ground like the horse is drunk. Like he's totally, you know, and the Kid Shalene is leaning over like that too. And as they're making the getaway, they say, where's Shalene? And he wakes up, he realizes he's got to make the distraction now and hold off the posse and all that kind of stuff. And he and the horse explode into action. And how they ever got the horse to lean on the wall like that with his head down and his legs crossed, you got to give it to some wrangler somewhere.
Yeah.
Some Hollywood guy who, you know, like, I got a horse. Wait till you see this.
Yeah. I actually, sorry to interrupt. I read a little bit of trivia about that part, that the horse trainer was trying to tell the director, this is going to take a long time because they don't cross their legs like that. And the director, Elliot Silverstein, I think, said, no, this has to happen today. We're doing this shot. So I guess he had to keep giving the horse, like give him sugar cubes or something, some kind of treat, and would keep pushing the horse's leg into the spot.
Give him a tree,
keep doing it. And then finally it stood there for a few minutes and they rolled and got the shot after an hour of doing that or so. So that was interesting.
You got to give him all the credit in the world because it's a 1 in a million shot.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Now, you know, one of the interesting things is I'm an old guy, and this movie came out in '65. Now, in '65, Henry Fonda was an American icon. He's the father of Peter Fonda and Jane Fonda, and he was a big hero. He was kind of like the Tom Hanks of his day, maybe, but without going to Epstein's Island, you know. He was the really wholesome all-American. He was everybody's father or grandfather, and America loved Henry Fonda, and right to the end, you know. And here he has these up-and-coming kids. Now, in '65, Jane Fonda, I'm not sure when Barbarella was made, but she was growing into the thing of like a sex kitten, right? And we did not know yet that she would be Hanoi Jane. And Peter Fonda, this is in '65, Peter Fonda in '69 made Easy Rider.
Yeah.
And he became an instant icon. But we did not know that he was going to, you know, change and not be quite what Henry Fonda was,
right,
as far as patriotism went and that kind of thing. So it was interesting. At that point, the family was really intact. That the 2 young actors, the patriarchal father, like it was a fantastic family. But of course, we know that both of those guys, both Jane Fonda and Peter Fonda, they didn't live up to what they were supposed to. They, you know, they took this kind of unpatriotic turn.
Oh, okay.
And so you got to realize when this movie came out, nobody knew yet that she was going to be Hanoi Jane. the world loved her. The country loved her. She didn't have that stigma of, what she did with the prisoners in the Vietnam and the Hanoi Hilton.
So I honestly am not sure what you're referring to.
Okay,
Henry
well,
Jane.
in 1972, Jane Fonda was a big end the war hippie chick.
Okay.
And she went to Hanoi, where they had a famous prison camp called the Hanoi Hilton, and they were torturing Americans. And they allowed her to mingle amongst the prisoners, and the prisoners gave her tiny notes on a piece of paper, like something that they wanted her to bring back to the American government. And after she talked to them, with them watching, she went over to the commandant and handed him the notes. So this is why any Vietnam veteran will say, we are not Fonda Jane, because she did this, and everybody was shocked, and it was a betrayal. They thought they were going to get their voice somehow back, and we don't know what would have happened. The history would have changed, right? When this came out, she was America's sweetheart.
Right.
And that's how this movie has to be viewed. It's hard for me now because I know the whole story, what she did. And I asked you to watch this movie for a couple of reasons. One of them was it's a really fun movie. It's not some epic masterpiece. How it got all those awards nominations or something, I don't know. Lee Marvin showed his acting range, and people couldn't believe it at the time. I was 10 years old. At the time, people really talked about it. It was like, wow, did you see Lee Marvin?
Yeah.
Can you believe he did this? Can you believe, and that was really cool. But the other thing that I wanted you to see, because we watched The Joker, and it was a musical, and they had this weird musical interludes or whatever. And in this movie, Nat King Cole, who's a phenomenal singer, and Stubby Kaye, who's no slouch either, they sang the ballad of Cat Ballou. So all during the movie, things would happen, and then they would sing like the next verse.
Yeah.
What she did in Wolf City, Wyoming, Wolf City, Wyoming. They're going to hang you for killing the man and all that kind of stuff. And I just wanted you to see those two guys do that because you liked it, didn't you?
The movie as a whole, I thought was just kind of fine. It's not for me. That aspect of it, I did like it. Started off with an interesting tone because I didn't go in thinking it was going to be a comedy at first. I read the synopsis, but I guess I didn't look at that part of the comedy aspect of it. So I was like, oh, this
totally
is
silly.
Yeah, I was like, movie. This is an interesting tone. And at least from that, right off the bat what you're getting into. But I did like their musical interludes. They're just great. Like the way the shots were composed with them too. Great camera movement. Their harmonies were incredible. There's one shot in particular. I actually posted it on my Instagram. I said, not feeling this movie, but this shot's amazing. And it's when they're on a hill and then the sun is setting perfectly behind them on the hill. I'll show you. I'll definitely put it up if I can find that photo. But that was a really great shot of them.
When they played the banjo, they had the guitar strapped to their back.
Yeah.
It was like, then
that,
in the next scene, they had the guitars, and
and that was one of the nominations they got for the Oscar was Best Score, but also Best Original Song for Ballad of Cat Ballou. So that was one of the award or nominations. Yeah, I couldn't help but feel, honestly, the whole time, like I'm not very into American Westerns for the most part. I've got to see more, so I've got like my list I got to see.
Oh, there are some that you need to see.
Yeah, there are definitely a ton.
Yeah.
So immediately within the first.
Have you ever seen The Magnificent Seven?
I have.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. That one I like. I've only seen it once, but I do like it.
Well, sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, sorry. I'll take Seven Samurai over it though, if I'm being honest. But that was a great cast, right? You got like Yul Brynner and Bronson and
Steve McQueen.
How did I forget Steve McQueen? Yeah. Colt Coburn, right?
Right.
Anyway, I won't talk about that movie. But 5-10 minutes into this, I'm like, man, I just wish I was watching some Italian Western right now. I love some spaghetti Western. That's my jam. But yeah, I thought it was all right. What really struck me, as I mentioned before we even started recording, as you've already talked about, is Lee Marvin's performance. And I'm only really familiar with him from The Dirty Dozen, which I love that movie.
Right.
And
Maggot.
And I was not expecting, I saw he was in this and I wasn't expecting the playing the two different roles, but two being the drunken gunman, funny guy. And he does it so well. I have an affinity for actors that are really good at portraying drunk. You know?
Yeah. He's up filthy,
there.
dirty.
Yeah. And so good. I mean, for sure, he's the best part of the movie.
His eyes alone, those like wild-eyed, like trying to like get like, where am I? What's going on?
And I do like, you know, the missing the barn and all that, but then he takes another shot and he's like a, you know, perfect shooter, just like blasting bottles out of the sky and all that.
Yeah, there were scenes that were notable. One of them is the square dancing scene where she realizes that the two guys from the train have somehow found where she is.
Yeah.
And he says, we're hiding in plain sight, you know? And that was pretty good. And of course that ended in a barroom brawl scene, that was part of the fun. But the scene that I like that's underappreciated in the movie, I think, is when he brings out his chest with his gunfighter clothes and his good guns, and he just stands there, and the other guy dresses him.
Yeah,
you know, and it's like, this is because there are so many scenes like in old Western where the gunfighter, you know, he's going to die in these clothes.
Yeah, right.
You know, he's got all the clean, shiny stuff, and now you're going to face this guy. And I thought that was a great addition to the story of the movie. And then he's being dressed by the Indian boy, right? And the Indian boy has the great moment in the movie. Remember, this is 1965. So one guy punches the guy, the other guy punches the guy. Then the Indian boy, I call him the Indian boy because in the movie, he's the Indian boy. You know, he's a grown man, but he punches him and he says, wait a minute, what was that for? And he says, well, I'm allowed to get in on the fun regardless of my race, color, or creed, according to the 14th Amendment. I don't think in that year when that was, well, the movie is 65, but the story, I don't think they had the 14th Amendment yet, you know? This is before the Civil War or something, you know? But it was just funny that they added that in. And they all went like, "Oh, he's right."
Yeah,
you know?
That was a kind of funny moment when they're fighting. Yeah, the other guy hits him. He's like, "What are you hitting him for? I'm fighting him," and they just pass him along and
everybody had a great
just took a shot. There's one shot in particular I really dug in this movie is when this is in the end when they're taking her to the gallows to get hanged. And the camera pulls out and it's the noose and she and the police are like perfectly framed as the camera pulls back all the way. I think they walk all the way into a close up. I thought that was a really amazing shot.
That was the greeting card picture.
That's great. So good.
Yeah,
such
her
a good
face, the noose in the jail cell and everything. I mean, it was all that in one. And I mean, the movie was silly. The scene in the train where he's hiding out in the train car with her and stuff. It's like, that was a slog getting through. It's like, okay, you know, but they did have, you know, the scenes jumping off the train and, you know, jump, you know, and that kind of stuff. That was all funny. And I really liked the movie. I mean, it's not a high rate. It's not like, this isn't like, you guys have to see this movie. This is important that you do. But if you do see it, it will be fun.
Yeah,
I just wanted this in your catalog.
Yeah.
That's why.
No, I'm glad I saw it. It's not quite my bag.
It is a classic, you know.
Yeah.
And for its time, and it was, America was so innocent then.
Yeah.
We didn't have Easy Rider and Hanoi Jane. You know, that was that family. They were really like royalty in America, you know, and these are the up and coming prince and princess. I do want to say before we like really start wrapping this up, because I don't know that I have too much more to say about it, but I was really interested. So AFI, American Film Institute, does a lot of top 10 lists. So top 10 Westerns, and clearly American Film Institute, they're only counting American movies, which is fine. Right. But then to me, it's like, well, you can't say greatest of all time if you're only counting America. If you're not going to include the good, the bad, the ugly,
then what are you doing? What are you doing?
It's not fair.
But this is number 10 on the, have you seen this list by chance?
No.
So this is number 10 and I finished watching it and I'm like, all right, six Oscar nominations. Sure. But number 10 in the greatest of all time, you're out of your mind. Number 9 was Stagecoach. 8 was McCabe and Miss Miller, which I haven't seen. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid at 7. The Wild Bunch at 6. That's top 3 right there for me. Love the Wild Bunch.
Wild Bunch is good.
Oh yeah. Red River number 5. Unforgiven number 4. That's another like.
How about 310 the Yuma, for God's sake?
Not on here.
Oh, come on.
Shane at number 3, High Noon at number 2, and The Searchers at number 1. I'm curious, like, what would your list be off the top of your head right now? 10, and let's actually say not even just American movies. Top 10 westerns you think?
Well,
greatest?
first of all, the John Wayne movie, the one that was remade with
True Grit.
Yeah, True Grit would have to be in there, I think. I'll tell you what. I love Paint Your Wagon. That's another Lee Marvin where where it's a comedy thing. I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't. No.
But we will.
Okay.
It's way better than this, but it's a comedy.
And it was
too.
after this, right?
I think so.
After
Yeah,
it?
well after. Yeah. You're kind of blindsiding me with this right now.
Yeah, sorry.
And of course, I think the first things I think of are all the Clint Eastwood spaghetti, right?
Yeah,
Hang 'em High Plains Drifter. I am nobody, right? And of course, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. But Western movies, there are different kinds. Like there's the cowboy kind. There's then there's the Indian and cavalry, right? So, man, oh man, favorite Western movies.
We can even go maybe top 5 if we want to take it.
Yeah,
easy.
I'm just unprepared. I'm just unprepared.
Let's see. I don't know if I can pull out 10. I'll try to give 10 though in no particular order, but I'm gonna go Once Upon a Time in the West. That might be number 1. That actually might be number 1.
Yeah. That scene in the beginning where the train goes and he's just standing there.
Henry Fonda killing the family.
Yeah.
And that transition from the barrel of the gun into the train pulling into the station.
Yeah.
That's a stroke of genius. I actually prefer that one to Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, to be honest.
Yeah, it is there.
Yeah, I think that's Leone's masterpiece. But I'm going to go Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So Sergio Leone's Man with No Name trilogy, right? So Good, Bad, Ugly, Fistful of Dollars for a few dollars more. Once Upon a Time in the West, that's 4. Tombstone has to be up there. I have to put Tombstone in there.
Yep.
Got to put Tombstone in there.
I'll agree with that one. Doc Holliday.
One of my all-time favorites is Il Grande Silencio, or The Great Silence by Sergio Corbucci. I might suggest that for the show. It's with Klaus Kinski.
Rio Lobo.
I haven't seen that.
Rio Lobo is a good one.
Oh, The Wild Bunch. That's for sure on my list. Wild Bunch is just an amazing movie. Amazing.
Yeah. This is the perfect. In the comments section, rate your favorite Western
Unforgiven.
movie.
Unforgiven definitely deserves a top 5 greatest of all time spot, I think.
It's way up there. Sure.
Yeah.
There are so many great ones. I mean, the John Wayne ones alone, there's probably 10. I just can't think of.
Yeah.
I know there's one that I'm totally forgetting that's, really at the top.
Well, you mentioned Magnificent Seven, so that's in that top 10, I would think.
Right.
I would say.
There are a lot like that too. There's another one like that too, where they have to fortify a city. I haven't seen it yet, but Rio Bravo's one that's like high on my list of movies to see. Is that the one? There's another one where Charlie Bronson is the Indian.
Oh, is that Chato's Land?
Yes,
I think Chato's Land. I haven't seen that one. Yeah.
Oh, that's really a good one.
Okay.
That's really a good one.
I like Navajo Joe with Burt Reynolds, another Sergio Corbucci one. That's another like spaghetti western one. It's an interesting one that's pretty under the radar.
You know the directors and everything. That's
I try. I've got a lot more to watch. Like again, most American ones I haven't seen. Like I've seen maybe 1 or 2 John Wayne movies. To be honest, I haven't even gone down
Fort Apache.
Like I've only seen Searchers. Haven't seen Stagecoach, like any of the John Ford stuff. So in my study of movies,
that's a genre.
I have to go. Yeah, I have to go down there. It's like you got to go down that list. The John Ford, Howard Hawks era. Yeah, soon.
It's incredible how these genres are. I mean, war movies. Well, you got World War I, you got World War II, you got the Civil War.
Yeah,
you got. I mean,
Vietnam. They all have a little subgenre.
Right.
Yeah.
When we first started this a year and a half ago, I said, well, let me write down the various genres of movies. And it just became like 40 or 50.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, this is nothing like sports movies, right? Well, you got your boxing movies, your baseball movies. After a while, you realize our culture has really been documented. Whether accurately or not, I'm not so sure. But man, oh man. Yeah, Cat Ballou, I enjoyed it and I always will. I take it in its context, so I give it a 5. I can't imagine you giving it much more.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go 3.5. 3.5, 4. I'll say 3.5. I feel like once you hit the 3, that's like bad territory. And I don't think it's bad. It's not bad. But I don't want to quite give it a 5 because I feel like I gave another movie recently a 6 that was quite a bit better. Yeah. So 3.5 will be right on the edge.
I'll tell you, the earworm that I get from the Ballad of Cat Ballou with Nat King Cole and Stubby K. I watched the movie. I've been singing it ever since. I've been, singing the verses, and it's such an infectious song.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be stuck in my head, but it went away pretty quick.
Okay,
thankfully.
well, we'll get it back there.
Yeah.
We get off camera, I'll sing a couple of verses.
All right.
Thanks for indulging me on this one. It really was an indulgence. Rudy put up with it. I appreciate that. And we're going to keep going. We want your participation. We want to hear from you. So do what you can to get through. Thanks again. I'm Fred Satilli.
I'm Rudy Ruiz.
See you next time.